report that came out from Unsealed documents about Trump's FBI raid and how they basically told the agents that they could shoot to kill. I'm going to read that exact report so you could see the exact wording that occurs. Then we're going to talk about Klaus Schwab stepping down from the World Economic Forum, American citizens serving the IDF. There's a bill out there to give them the same benefits that American veterans who serve America get. These are the stories we're going to talk about today. Then we're going to kick it and take it easy. That's the show. Give me a thumbs up for the algorithm and in the chat if it sounds good. Dream Rare podcast starts now. Now. I don't know why I did that, but I thought it was cool. Maybe not that cool. Anyway, starts now.
It's the Dream Rare podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on Facebook? What's going on YouTube? We got Trisha, Amy, Victoria, Lyndon, not Lyndon B. Johnson, Lyndon White. We got Eddie, Giovanna, X Globes. All right, let's get it cracking. So I hope you guys saw and enjoyed my interview with Tony Roman, the owner of Basilicos, who never locked down for a second. He interviewed Chris Cuomo, or Chris Cuomo interviewed him during the pandemic. That was cool. So I didn't do a Monday show because of that. Also, I've been doing like a 24-hour fast. I've been trying to work out and get back in even better shape. I'm in good shape, but I'm trying to get in top tier. So I've been taking care of myself, taking it easy, and trying to do other stuff, other work as well. So let's see. Anomaly says, Drew Ramsey, appreciate you. Let's get into the stories, and then we'll hang out and I'll answer some of your questions because I don't have a fully jam-packed slate, just 3 slides that I want to show you. Here's the first one. And the theme of the show, or the title of the show, is, does this seem like a movie to you? I almost put, does it seem like a movie and a soap opera? Because I've just been noticing some things, but I want to report this story because it's going pretty viral. So Julie Kelly tweeted out tons of new unsealed filings on classified docs case. I'll try to post as much as I can. FBI authorized the use of deadly force at Mar-a-Lago. According to an operations order produced in Discovery, the FBI believes its objective for the Mar-a-Lago raid was to seize classified information, NDI, and U.S. government records as described in the search warrant. The order contained a policy statement regarding the use of deadly force, which stated law enforcement officers of the Department of Justice may use deadly force when necessary. Pretty shocking, I would say. I mean, I don't know how the FBI normally operates or, police raids, but I would think that since you're just going to get classified documents, it's Donald Trump. He used to be the president. It's not like anyone's really going to do that much to you. To include that in the search warrant, and I believe people are speculating or confirming that Merrick Garland is the head of that department. So they're saying that, Department of Justice, saying that he must have ordered that, or that was under his watch, or some are speculating that it's Chris Wray because it's the FBI. But a lot of people are saying, this seems almost like a veiled assassination attempt. I think that's like the extreme opinion that's coming out over that. But even if you don't have an extreme opinion, or I don't want to put labels that are like, oh, it's so extreme, but I think anybody would look at that and be like, that seems completely unnecessary for a raid of documents, that you would include that in any sort of warrant or legislation or wording, documentation of a raid on Mar-a-Lago. Here's what I want to say. I want to say the obvious, and then I want to say what I've been thinking for 4 years, which has made me incredibly popular in some circles and incredibly unpopular in other circles. The first obvious statement is like, that's crazy. I don't like Biden's Department of Justice. I don't like the director that Trump hired that Biden kept. I'm not saying I know him personally, but I'm not like thrilled with what's going on with our law enforcement at the highest levels. It seems like the border's wide open. I know that car theft have increased. Home burglaries have increased. There's millions of illegals here. Not all of them are bad people, but there are foreign gangs that are breaking into houses. And it seems like the FBI is more concerned with Donald Trump, his supporters. They're making the biggest deal out of January 6th. Imagine if they spent all that energy trying to track down foreign gangs that are robbing homes of American citizens. Like, everybody knows, regardless of what side of the fence you're on, everybody can see that the country's like out of control and nobody cares. I did a video today that I put on Instagram and Facebook. I want to talk about it a little later, just the marketing side of it. But in San Diego, they switched the law. I don't know if it's a local or state law. I'm guessing it's a local law. And the sheriffs and the park rangers are now saying that yoga people can't do yoga in certain parts of the state. Like that's the big, or certain parts of the county. Like that's the big scoop. It's like, oh, these like 5 chicks and this one weird dude are doing yoga by the beach. Like that. It's like people's cars are getting broken into every day. There's homelessness that, the house robberies are increasing. And this is where they're spending their energy. It's just disgusting. With all that being said, the obvious take is like, yeah, it seems corrupt. It seems like they're out to get Trump. And, there's nothing to agree with here. It's to take documents. You shouldn't need to use deadly force. Even including that just shows some dark stuff, I would say. That's the obvious take, right? And I'm not telling you what is 100% sure, because I always like to be honest and tell you what's my opinion and what I believe to be true. But with all that being said, that's the obvious take. Everyone's going to say it. They're going to say that they're out to get Trump. It's so crazy. It's so bad, blah, blah, blah. Sure. I somewhat agree. I mean, absolutely. It's all everything that everyone else says. Like, yeah, if it's true, it's really bad. Here's the thing. For a long time, for me and a lot of people who watch my channel, which is probably why they watch my channel, it seemed almost like a soap opera. I want to show you 2 pictures real quick before I get into it, because I saw these posted. Anna Paulina posted one, who I follow, and then Calvin Coolidge Project posted the other. And to me, I'll just show you. Like these pictures of all the people standing behind Trump, and a lot of the people behind Trump are like, I stand with Trump, and then they'll post their fundraising thing right after it. You got Matt Gaetz. Like, to me, it looks like a soap opera, like Days of Our Lives or something, where it's like you got Trump, he's a little blurry, everyone's standing firm. Like, obviously they know that that's a photo op. Obviously they're going for the photo op and they're fundraising off it. Nothing wrong with it. That's politics, right? You got to make money. But to me, it's just seemed like theater for a while. Obviously, the lockdown really made me rethink things, because I was like, wait, why are the Republicans doing this? Everything's stupid. But moving forward, I remember when the Mar-a-Lago raid happened, like everybody else, I was like, wow, this is corrupt. Wow, what are they doing? Why did they raid Mar-a-Lago? That seems unnecessary. But then I listened to Trump's statement. I don't remember if it was his team or him directly, but his statement made me feel like, oh, this is just like a joke, or this is like a theater. And I'm not saying for sure it is, because I'm sure people will get mad at that. But the reason I thought that, not originally, but after, was I heard Trump talking about it, and he said, they were like, why didn't you hand back the classified documents? Apparently the Department of Justice and the FBI, they gave Trump, according to what I remember when I was watching these, studying these interviews to report on it, they said that they gave Trump a couple months to hand them back. Like, we're not going to raid unless you hand them back. And Trump's reasoning for not handing them back, to me, it just seemed like good cop, bad cop, or it seemed like theater, or like Harlem Globetrotters, because Trump was like, I was busy, I was doing things. And I was like, so they gave him a chance to hand these documents back, but he didn't hand them back because he said he was too busy. Like, he doesn't have an assistant or a lawyer to go through them and hand them back. Like, his excuse was like, oh, I didn't feel like getting around to it. So they asked for the documents. You didn't feel like getting around to it, which seems completely odd and reckless. And then they do this raid, and then these pictures come out. And then it's like, Michael Cohen stole from you. I understand that someone that lives a fulfilling life will seem like a movie. Michael Jordan's life seemed like a movie. The O.J. Simpson court case seemed like a movie. But even that court case, I have to wonder, I'm not saying that nothing happened. Obviously something did. But it's like, why was that the story for 5 years? Like, Americans knew nothing about anything except for O.J. Simpson. They could tell you every bit of O.J. Simpson, just like everybody references the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case. Like, why was that such a big thing? And then the Ghislaine Maxwell Jeffrey Epstein thing just fell by the wayside. There's some reasons for it as far as like local, and I think like federal, there's a different legality to what you can make public. So I understand that element of it. But to me, it's like this Trump movie is just like, so he didn't hand back the documents, and then they did this, and then there's these pictures. To me, it just kind of seems like theater, because then when it comes down to it, I follow people that are studying, because I'm pretty, be honest with you, I'm pretty tapped out of like caring about the Republican Party. Like, I don't monitor their day to day, who he's endorsing, what he's saying on True Social. Like, I really don't care what Trump's doing. That's why I don't talk about it that much more. With that being said, like, he's not endorsing good people. He's endorsing rhinos. He's endorsing swamp creatures. He's endorsing people who hate him. And then when he gets in office, if he does get in office, then they're going to turn on him and he's going to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. And to me, it just seems like this kind of like theater, almost like, let's make this the narrative of American consciousness. Either you're on the side of defending Trump against the left, or you're on the Rachel Maddow CNN side where you think Trump is a criminal. And when you go to normie pages on Instagram, you could see this. Like, half of the comments are like Trump supporters being like, he's innocent. And then half the supporters are Trump brainwashed leftists who are like, he's a criminal. And it's just like, even if Trump was a criminal, like, did anything he do here, is that worse than the wars we've started, than the millions of people, than the lockdowns? Like, then, there's a lot of crazy, corrupt things that the US government has done. So even if Trump was guilty of these crimes, which I don't even really think he is, but say he's guilty of like 2 of them, it's really not, to me, it's not the worst thing a president's ever done. I just think they're making him the hero or the villain. And then what I notice is when it comes to, like, really, you could call it the deep state or the swamp, or, you know what I'm saying, foreign entities having influence in America, or like, whoever you want to blame for, controlling America, everybody thinks it's something else, but pretty much everyone has different words for it. It's like Trump is not a threat to this at all. Like, there's billionaire donors that are backing him because he's more pro-Israel. Trump thinks Israel should literally own Congress. Republicans are passing bills to basically make it impossible for a U.S. sitting president to ever cut the funding from them. I'll show you this bill later that they want now, people who serve the IDF that are American citizens to get the same taxpayer benefits as American soldiers who serve the U.S. And then I'll talk to boomers on Facebook. Everyone else gets it, but boomers on Facebook, they're stuck in the Stone Ages. But they're like, this is right. How dare you? And I'm like, so should we give U.S. taxpayer benefits to U.S. citizens who serve in Ukraine that are dual citizens? They'd be like, no. So should we do it if they go and serve in India's military or Russia's military or Canada's military or Mexico's military? For a while, we give benefits to U.S. soldiers, but now they're trying to give benefits to Israeli citizens, and the Republican boomers just eat it up. Like, they love it, but then they hate it when it's Ukraine, and they can't really even explain why. But in general, like, it all just feels like theater to me, because it's like, I'm obviously going to stand behind Trump when they're doing the wrong thing. But then when I hear him say that he didn't give the documents back because he was busy, I'm like, did he purposely get raided? Because, like, if they're like, we're going to give you 2 months to get raided, give the documents back. And he's like, no, but then they raided, but then they wrote that. And then it's this, and then, he's going to get off of this court case. Cause it to me, it just reminds me of like Days of Our Lives, see, episode 7, episode 8, episode 9. And it's all going to result to the same place, because Trump and Biden are controlled by the same donors, the same lobbyists. Trump proved that he can't stand up to almost anybody. I mean, he hired the FBI director that's persecuting him now. He hired pharmaceutical lobbyists to run HHS. He hired Mitch McConnell's wife to be Secretary of Transportation. He hired Mike Pompeo to be Secretary of State, a former CIA guy. Like, Trump, to me, it's just obvious that he's false opposition. So I'll stand behind him when the deep state's being bad to him or the FBI is being wrong. But it's like, where does this go? To me, it's like the left is going to get brainwashed into thinking Trump is this ultimate villain, so they can't think straight for the next 20 years. The right is brainwashed into thinking he's a hero, so they can't think straight for the next 20 years. And then whether he wins or loses, it doesn't really matter anyway. And there's one thing that's really overarching in American society, that there's no difference between Biden, RFK Jr., Trump, Blinken, Pompeo. Like, there's only one topic that mysteriously every politician completely agrees on, and that's Israel. So it's like, some people it's for political reasons, some people it's for racial reasons, some people it's for religious reasons, some people it's for financial reasons. They're just never going to tell you, but it's because they get paid, and they'll tell you it's for these like spiritual reasons. But if they got paid from another government or another country, they do what that country said. So it's not really about that. To some it is, but to some it isn't. So it's like, to me, this is why I barely cover this stuff. I always tell people, if you want to learn about the day-to-day Trump stuff, there's thousands of channels to watch, and I'm not knocking it. Somebody has to cover that. I've said this like the last couple of weeks, like, somebody has to cover the day-to-day with Trump. It's just not me, because to me, it's just a giant waste of time. You're just running in circles. And at the end of the day, something's going to happen. He's probably going to get off. He'll probably win the election. And my prediction is, I think, the elites want Trump to win the election. Biden is not pro-Israel enough, and at this point, I think that, I don't know if you can even say this. They're going to say it's hate speech, but America is just like a colony of Israel at this point. Like, we're not a sovereign nation. We're not allowed to be individuals. We're not allowed to look out for our own interests over their interests. Everything is about them. That's prioritized over America. And most Republicans over the age of 50 want it that way. So it's never going to change. I just wish people are honest. Like, if you want that to be the case, then just stop waving the American flag, put up a new flag, and just say, like, it's over. We don't even have a country. But if we have a country, like, what people don't understand is we're allies with Canada, but we don't have to do everything they want us to do. We're allies with Mexico, but Trump is saying he wants to invade Mexico and go after the cartel. We're allies with Ukraine, but all these Republican boomers, they know that we want to be separate from them. But with Israel, we're attached at the hip, and we're not attached at the hip in a fair relationship. We're attached at the hip where it's like our politicians work harder for them than us. So let's just be honest about it. And, who cares about this stuff? It's like, yeah, I don't want Trump to go to jail. I don't want Trump to get hurt. I want him to live a long and happy life. But when it's all said and done with all of this drama that I personally believe is a soap opera just designed to get the left and the right running circles around like an O.J. Simpson narrative that doesn't actually matter for their lives and the wars, etc. When it's all said and done, I think that no matter who wins, not that much is going to change. And I actually personally think that the elites want Donald Trump to win, because a lot of these billionaires that have been funding Marxism and funding the schools and funding the Democrats, once they realized that the younger kids were not seeing them as a victim, but they were roping them in with white people and, oppressors and whatever, now they'll switch sides, because their main agenda, just like the Republican Party's main agenda and even the Democratic Party's main agenda, it's not America first. There is no America First Party, and nothing's really going to change. So it's my opinion about that. But let me know what you think. Do you think it's real, or do you think that it's like totally, totally fake? With that being said, I wanted to talk a little bit about Klaus Schwab. He resigned, or he stepped down from his executive thing. I follow Alex Jones on Twitter, and I was laughing at his headline today. He was like, Klaus Schwab resigns, and the deep state is folding and collapsing. And it's just like, I get that this gets a lot of clicks. Like, I understand in this industry, listen, I do well for myself, so I'm not going to complain. But I know that like everybody's always trying to make a thing, so then they get a lot of views. But it's like, I read that and I was like, because Klaus Schwab stepped down, you think the deep state is in shambles? Like, how are they in shambles? Like, what aspect of like the entire world, like, well, what are they losing so bad at now? Like that, the entire world locked down, sold pharmaceutical vaccines, ran millions of small businesses out. Joe Biden, quote unquote, won the election. Like, they're in shambles now. It's just ridiculous. So I don't know. Let me know what you think about the Klaus Schwab stepping down. Why do you think he stepped down? I'm not really sure. I want to answer Boss Media real quick. He said anomalies of Fed. It's 100% not true, but I'm just curious, what do you disagree with me on, or what do you think that I'm doing that's so? Why do you think that? Are you like a super Trump supporter or something, and anybody that disagrees with Trump you think is a Fed? Because Trump hired a former CIA director for Secretary of State. So it's like Trump picked a CIA director to run his foreign policy. But if you talk about it, then it's your fault or something. Someone said Alex Jones is dramatic. Yeah, I mean, I'm just watching this stuff. I don't know. I'm talking about what I'm seeing. So it's just like everyone's always dramatic, because then it gets a lot of clicks. He said MAGA baby. Do you realize, I'm just asking you, Boss Media, because I'm not asking people to vote for Joe Biden, obviously. I think Trump makes more sense, even than RFK. But you realize that Trump, he could pick anybody that he wants, and he picked a former CIA director for Secretary of State. He's being persecuted by the FBI director he hired. Trump took $1 million from Pfizer and hired a pharmaceutical lobbyist. Trump endorsed Mitt Romney in 2019 when I was telling people Mitt Romney sucks. It's just crazy that people that love Trump so much, it's like everyone else is the problem except for him. Mysteriously, like Imagine if I hired an FBI director, you'd be like, oh, anomaly is that. But then when Trump does it, all of a sudden, like he's just not that. It's like, yeah, the guy hiring the CIA is not the CIA, but the guy that's just honest on YouTube. You could lie about me and defame me and libel me because you're not anybody important. But, if you said that in a news article, I could prove that that's false and it's not legal, but whatever. Someone said Anomaly's highly disappointed like the rest of us. Yeah, but I would say this. I'm not even like I've come to terms with what it is. So I wouldn't even say I'm disappointed anymore because I don't have expectations. And any expectations I thought I had in 2018, I quickly realized in 2020, like all I wanted was like the country not to just like fall apart. And then with the lockdowns, I was like, I didn't really have high expectations for Trump. I was wildly impressed for the first 3 years, but I had no like, oh, he needs to do this. I was just like, the reason I like Donald Trump, I was like, he's doing okay. He's doing good. He's doing in some cases great, in other cases good. And then the lockdown happened, and then he runs around selling pharmaceutical vaccines. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know that I had that high expectations, but I guess my expectations were higher than that. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you go on a date and you say, I have no expectations, but then like, a bird like craps in your face and you're like, well, I guess I had no expectations, but my expectations were not to get crapped in the face by a bird. So that's a little shittier than that's kind of how I feel. None of this stuff surprises me. Like I'm looking at certain pages that tell you who Trump endorses, and like 70% of the people he's endorsing are swampers, rhinos. If you don't understand who Trump really is and who he really serves, it's never going to make sense to you. You're just going to falsely accuse other people. But it's like there's something above Trump. There's money pouring in, and Trump is subservient to a certain agenda. I think it's pretty obvious at this point, but it's so obvious that they call it hate speech when you talk about it. Speaking of which, I'll show you this bill that they're trying to pass in Congress, because this is what American politicians do. They're like going nut. If you follow and you go to any feed of like most Republicans this week in office, not the fans are better, or the consumers, they look like their Twitter feed reads like a foreign propaganda minister. Like they don't even talk about America. But anyway, there's a bill being passed by two Republicans, Guy Reschenthaler and Max Miller, that would give the same taxpayer benefits to Americans serving in the IDF as they were if they were serving in the U.S. military. And this is a point I want to make. Most people understand this because they're not dumb. And I'm not saying Facebook boomers are dumb. I appreciate you guys, but Facebook boomers, they're like totally brainwashed on this topic. They're like unbearable. But with that being said, if you serve in the Israel Knesset, you could Google this. It's mainstream stuff in Israeli news. If you serve in the Israeli government, you have to give up your dual citizenship. You can't be Russian Israeli, you can't be Greek Israeli, and you can't be American Israeli. They make you give up your American passport. They make you give up your Russian passport or your British passport. You're only allowed to serve one master. It's a smart rule. I have no problem with Israel doing that. I don't think it's racist against the United States. I think it makes total sense. They want to make sure when you serve in the government of Israel that you're serving Israel and not another country, because they understand that you can't serve two countries at once. You're always going to favor one over the other. In America, it's the exact opposite. We have sitting government members that are dual citizens. And not only do they not have to revoke it, but you can't even talk about it. In Israel, you're not allowed to have the dual citizenship to serve their government. In America, you get smeared as anti-Semitic by the left wing, the right wing, the press, and then the Republicans pass a condemnation bill to stop you from ever saying it. You understand? So it's like, it's not that you could have an opinion about a foreign military, but at a certain point, you have to realize America's not a sovereign country anymore. Like we're not. We don't have the same rules as Israel. We don't have the same rights in a sense. Like we're not allowed. So if I come out and I say, I think only American citizens serving the American military should get benefits. I don't think an American citizen serving Israel should get benefits like the same way a U.S. veteran does of the United States military. I don't believe that for Ukraine or India or Japan or anyone. I don't think that we should do that for any other country, but that's considered anti-Semitism. So, that's what the Republicans over 50 think. Luckily, anybody under the age of 40 is not totally brainwashed like they are. So they don't even realize, but like everybody's just kind of like waiting for them to like stop being so dumb. It's like, we love you guys, but at the same time, you're making it impossible to ever like get a real country. With that being said, like, why would a country pass a bill that says that? It's not really that hard to figure out at this point, but it's like, if you can't get it now, then when will you be able to get it? So my issue on that note is, I don't know. I would like a country that has sovereignty and is allowed to work with allies, but negotiate with allies. But American Republicans are such fake opposition that they're passing bills to make it so the president can't negotiate with Israel. You have to give your foreign aid. You can't ever cut it off. Dude, just change our flag. That's all I ask. Like, I'm tired of seeing the American flag and these boomers like drooling with the American. Like, just put an Israel flag in your hand. Call it the United States of Israel. Say that we're a colony. We have no sovereignty. They have rules where they expect loyalty in their country. We have rules that you get called anti-Semitic. We funnel our money to them, and then they say that we can get refugees. And in response, it's like, we're creating a refugee crisis. Why don't you guys take it? That's what they write in op-eds in the Wall Street Journal. So it's like, at this point, when it comes to the Trump drama or anything that normie Republicans are saying, I feel like I'm 3 years or 4 years ahead of them. So it's like, well, I don't know. If you could tell, I'm not that stressed about it, or I don't really care. It's like, I'll just tell you what I actually think. And as far as all the other stuff, I just think they're going to be running in circles for a while. And, it is what it is. I want to talk about something else, and then I'll read some comments, because I saw recently that, well, I interviewed Tony Roman, I almost said the CEO probably, but the owner of Basilico's restaurant. He never locked down. He got a fine. I think OSHA tried to take money out of his bank account. He debated Chris Cuomo on CNN, and I got him to react to an Andrew Cuomo clip, right? Because if you guys haven't seen it, it's really good, and Tony's a legend. With that being said, I asked him, I'm like, what do you think about all this? And he said, never forgive these guys. They don't belong in the alpha men's club. They're going to try to crawl their way back in, but don't forgive them. And what I find interesting is, Patrick Bet-David, a lot of people don't know this. They think that Chris Cuomo is just a guest on Patrick Bet-David. Patrick Bet-David actually struck a deal with Chris Cuomo, and I believe he hired Chris Cuomo. I'm just going to read their website. And there's a reason I'm saying this. I'm not being hateful, but I'm just being honest. And if people don't want to talk to me on a podcast, then I'm doing my own. On their website 2 months ago, it says Chris Cuomo joins Valuetainment. Valuetainment is excited to announce that veteran news anchor Chris Cuomo will be joining our media team as a talent partner. He will become a rotating guest on PBD's podcast Home Team, bringing 2 decades of experience and his unique perspective to the table. His new role is a non-cable media contract. Cuomo will still be hosting a show on News Nation. So they brought him in, they gave him a deal, and they said he's going to be a rotating guest on Home Team. I don't watch PBD's podcast, but I've met almost his whole staff. I've hung out with them. Like, I told people they were thinking about hiring me, or maybe they were just pretending to hire me and just looking at my analytics or something, because it seemed like they said they were hiring a lot of people, but then they ended up only hiring Chris Cuomo, which is odd. But anyway, with that being said, it's like the Home Team, for me at least, and I think a lot of the people that actually listen to PBD's podcast, it was like this authentic, oh, these are our boys. Like, it's Patrick and Vincent and the other guy. And it's like, that's my boys. We're just doing a Home Team podcast. To bring in Chris Cuomo, it just it takes the authenticity from whatever it was to like a zero. It's like Chris Cuomo is one of the worst and least authentic people in media. He had a recent video where it seemed like he said he was vaccine injured. And then he rejected it after it went viral, because I watched it 10 times. It sounded like he said he had a vaccine injury. In fact, I would just say he did say that. But then he said, no, it's long COVID, and now I'm worried about bird flu. So now Chris Cuomo's backtracking on having a vaccine injury and saying it's long COVID and using it to promote bird flu hysteria. He's horrible. Chris Cuomo has not changed. He's not learned. He's trying to weasel his way into conservative-leaning independent media. But here's the point that I'm trying to make, because I've been I typed to Patrick on Twitter because it's an open forum. He called me a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to get into the details, but he was saying I was bitter and like, oh, and the thing is, like, he's talking to me that way. It's fine. I don't care. I can handle it. I'm a big boy. We debated for 40 minutes and I enjoyed it. With that being said, if you go to his last YouTube video where he was yelling at his audience, like talking to people like that, like super, it's like all the comments. I literally looked at like the first top 20 comments. They're all saying like, you made a huge mistake hiring Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo sucks. He's terrible. He's horrible. And his audience is overwhelmingly rejecting Chris Cuomo. This is my opinion from an outside perspective. It has nothing to do with jealousy. I negotiated. I could have probably just signed a deal that didn't make sense to me, but I negotiated. We went back and forth. It didn't work out. Has nothing to do with that. See, people don't like. People are calling me a narcissist and jealous. Like, you guys, you won't even let me finish to get to the point. And this is why people are always getting tricked, because what I'm about to say, I'm 5 months ahead of everybody else, or maybe I'm just the only one that actually gives a shit to speak the truth. I don't care about like networking and lying in order to get my way in. But if you go to Chris Cuomo's, if you go to his Twitter page, he's got PBD's consulting application at the top. Candace Owens is using PBD's consulting application. Here's all I'm going to say, and I would love to say it to Patrick on the show. I would love to chat about it or talk about other stuff or have a debate, because to be honest, like the things that they talk about when it comes to conservative media, to me, it reminds me of like 2018 stuff. It's like 5 years behind. But anyway, with that being said, he's telling his audience, and everybody in his own audience, they already are like, we don't like Chris Cuomo, but Patrick's trying to convince you that he's doing it because he wants to bridge the gap between the left and the right, and he wants to have real discussions. And no, most people are not buying it because they know that Chris Cuomo is not real opposition. He's not an honest liberal. He's not an honest conservative. He's not an independent. He didn't see the light. He's not a good journalist. He's an opportunist. He's a snake and he's a weasel. And 90% of Patrick's audience knows it. But when you really look at the business behind it, this is my perspective based on just looking at stuff. I think that Patrick probably signed Chris Cuomo because Chris Cuomo is rich, and Chris Cuomo has a lot of rich and powerful friends. And one of the things that clearly is part of the deal, just based on, or at least that I'm seeing on his Twitter page, is he's promoting mainstream right on the front of his page, the application that Patrick's running. So it's like Patrick is trying to convince me and the conservative base that he's bringing on Chris Cuomo because he really cares about bringing the country together. In reality, he just wants rich and wealthy people to use this consulting app because he's basically, in my view, using the podcasting thing as a front for his consulting business. So all I'm asking is just be honest about it. If you're basically hired, like, why would you hire Chris Cuomo? He's not a good journalist. He's not that popular. He couldn't even cut it at corporate media. Everybody hates him. He's a snake. He's pushing bird flu hysteria. He's god awful. It's because he's rich and he has a lot of rich friends. And that's what it is. So if Patrick came out and said, I hired Chris Cuomo because I'm pushing a consulting app and I want to get rich and powerful people to use my consulting app because I have a consulting business, I would respect that. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, hire the richest people who are worth it on your consulting app, because then if you get a percentage, you're going to make more money with Cuomo's network than a journalist like Glenn Greenwald or somebody that's actually good. But here's the thing. He's trying to trick me and his audience and everyone else into thinking that, oh, he's bringing on Chris Cuomo because he really wants to bridge the left and the right. There's other ways to bridge the left and the right. He's pushing a business, which is fine, but just say that. Don't come out and pretend like you're doing it for me or someone else. Because if you read the comments on his own page, 90% of the comments are saying this is a terrible hire. We don't believe you, this and that. Everybody knows. Like, I know there's some salty people in the comments, but how does 95% of his audience know? And people want to argue with it about me. I'm just being like, I don't know what else to do, And here's the thing about that situation is, like, I've never liked Chris Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo's viral right now. They're both in the news because they're both backtracking and being sneaky on COVID stuff. Am I not supposed to talk about it because they almost hired me and went with Chris Cuomo? And now I'm just supposed to sit and be like a silent little boy because they won't even have me on the podcast to speak my mind? I'm not impressed with a lot of conservative media. I'm not impressed with their Trump versus DeSantis analysis. I'm wildly unimpressed with their COVID lockdown analysis. I'm unimpressed with their reporting about the foreign wars. Like, I'm not just going to sit here and be like, oh, this is all awesome. It's really not. Someone said 200 IQ anomaly. I mean, I figured out that Chris Cuomo was basically just to push the consulting business a month ago before I even saw that it was pinned at the top of Chris Cuomo's page. Me or Glenn Greenwald or someone else, we don't have multi-million billion dollar networks that can make millions of dollars on a consulting app. Chris Cuomo does. That's why he got hired. He's not a good journalist. I think I could create documentaries and create content that could times 100 and really scale if I had the right production. And I don't care, but it's like, why didn't they hire someone else good? Why did they hire Chris Cuomo? It's not to bridge the left and the right. It's just not. It's to push a consulting application. And it's the same thing. This is my issue. And I would love to talk about it on the podcast. I would love to talk about it to somebody. My issue is I don't have a hate issue. I'm not bitter. I'm not jealous. I'm not angry. I'm just tired of sellouts in conservative media and Republican politics. If you want to make money, but not everybody thinks that making money is the most important thing to do. If you do, that's how you get billions of dollars. That's fine. But it's like with Donald Trump, I don't think it's cool that he takes money from major donors and billionaires and big pharma, because once he does that, then he sells out his cabinet. And I guarantee you, even the Trump dick riders in the comments, he's going to sell his cabinet out again. He's going to pick a bad vice president. His whole cabinet's going to suck because he's taken hundreds of millions of dollars from donors. And it's the same reason that Obama did it. It's the same reason that George Bush did it. They're all just puppets. They're all just actors for you to drool over. So nobody could ever really figure out who's running the show and where the money is. With that being said, in politics, that's the major issue. The only person that I've determined in Congress actually isn't a complete dick rider and has a soul and a brain is Thomas Massie. I don't even like, I like Marjorie. I met her in person, but as far as her and Matt Gaetz, to me, that's like the next level. Like the best is, Thomas Massie. And then you have your Marjorie Taylor Greenes and Matt Gaetz's, but I'm way more impressed with Thomas than I am with her. 99% of Congress, they don't do what they think is right. They do what they think is popular. We'll put them in social circles and we'll get them fundraising and money. It's what they do. It's part of them. They have to do it, but they have to do it like you had to get a vaccine to keep your job. It's that sort of same relationship. It's a toxic, unhealthy relationship. So with that being said, that's my huge issue in conservative politics. I believe, this is why I say this all the time, I believe the Republican Party is 99% fake opposition, and the country will never change because even when they win, we end up in a lockdown. Even when they win, we end up in Operation Warp Speed. This wasn't a random, spontaneous thing that just happened by mistake to get Trump. He's a part of it. It's never going to change with that mindset. With that being said, what's my problem with conservative media? In 2019, this is the thing. I've been here for too long to get gaslit by somebody new in media into thinking that I'm just bitter and jealous and hateful. This is the same thing they said to me in 2019. Anybody that's stuck with me since then and that actually pays attention and has an IQ over 20, they saw me talking about these anti-Semitism hate speech laws in 2019. I told people DeSantis passed them. It's true. Trump passed them. It's true. And then I got blacklisted from Republican media and they said, "Oh, Anomaly, you're just so hateful." I'm not hateful. A lot of these organizations that you think are for America, they're fueling off of tens of millions of dollars from donors. And in order to get the donor money, they can't talk about this topic because the donors are paying them and saying, do stuff for this country. If you don't do stuff for this country, we're going to pull the funding. So they're basically just puppets. They're no different than Barack Obama. They just wear MAGA hats and say conservative things. So it's like the Republican politicians are sold out. Republican media is sold out. And then you have this new promising guy outside of even our relationship or me being hired or not hired. It doesn't really matter to me. But it's like, if you hire Chris Cuomo, okay, that's weird because he's really bad. And then you come out and you say, "Oh, it's because I want to bridge the gap." Dude, it's because you want to push your consulting business. He's rich. He's powerful. Him serving that's going to make you a lot of money and get that into the circle of people who matter. And by matter, I mean have net worth of over $10 million because that's where the money is in a consulting app. It's not with brokies and, average Trump supporters. So just be honest about it. You know what I'm saying? Don't gaslight us into thinking like that you're helping our movement so much. And it's like, it's not, it's just the same old, So it is what it is, but it's like, I'm tired of being gaslit anywhere by anyone saying like, I'm not a jealous person. I'm very competent. I'm happy. I'm successful. I don't talk about stuff, but I'm not hurting. I've done well for myself. I've been smart with my money for the most part. I probably could have done some smarter things. But in general, it's like I'm not out here like begging. Even when I hit up Pat, I wasn't asking for a job. I just wanted to chat with him. He offered it to me and then pretended like it was the other way around, which it wasn't. But anyway, it's like I wasn't even thinking of that. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind partnering with certain people if it could elevate the message and get better equipment or whatever. But in general, it's like, every time I say something that's true, they try to gaslight me into thinking that, like, oh, or gaslight other people into thinking like, oh, you're just so jealous. I'm not jealous of Ben Shapiro. I never disliked Ben Shapiro until I realized he called everything anti-Semitism while the Republican Party was passing anti-Semitism bills. I never disliked Charlie Kirk. I never thought a bad thing about him until I realized that he's just a tool and he was running around college campuses basically trying to brainwash people into thinking what I was saying wasn't happening. So it's like they're doing the business, sucking up all the donor money, sucking up all the business. Chris Cuomo, $10 billion donors, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll turn to you. And instead of telling you and be like, if they were honest, they'd be like, the reason we don't like what Anomaly is saying is because we're working with people who have $1 billion. We're getting $10 million donations. We're creating a business where we need elites, Democrat and Republican elites, to use our app in order to make a lot of money. We want it to be the premier consulting app. Like, if people just came out and were honest about that, I have no problem. Make money, start a business. I'm not against business. I'm not against rich people. I think billionaires are fine as long as they're not pieces of garbage. But it's like everybody's lying to you in unison. So then people think I'm just lying. They're like, oh, yeah, he just can't get there. I could get invited places. It's not like I'm incapable of all that stuff. It's just that's what they're doing. Lapdog says it's all about Anomaly. If it was all about me, I would just suck up a bunch of money and then just like wear fancy suits all the time and, have gold chains on if that was about me. It's not what I do. But yeah, I mean, I think people are just in independent and conservative media. People are so naive and so foolish. Like I can't explain it. I don't know if it's, you know, I don't know what it is, but it's just like I could see it so clearly, but no one else can. And I just want to say this with like the PBD podcast. It puts me in an interesting and a weird situation because I'm not trying to talk about people with that. Like I've said similar stuff to Patrick on the phone 3 weeks ago. Okay. It's not like I'm trying to say this or that, but it's like you hire Chris Cuomo, you go out of your way to have a lot of people on the podcast. You don't even respect me enough to have a conversation with me. And then you do all this like weird stuff. And then when people figure it out, he just talks down the same way he talks down to people on his videos. He talks like, oh, no, I need to give you advice. Bro, I'm not looking for unsolicited advice. It's not like, well, let me give you advice. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those situations where you watch the video of him responding to all the supporters of his that don't like that he hired Chris Cuomo. He's not considering it at all. He's just talking down to you like you're so stupid and he's so right for doing it. It's just like crazy gaslighting. So it's like, I would love to have a debate or a conversation about politics, about whatever. But it's like, it puts me in a weird spot where it's like, I know these people enough to know them. They don't respect me enough to have a conversation on a podcast with me. But at the same time, that's part of the conservative media. If that's going to be one of the bigger conservative media companies and they're hiring Chris Cuomo and giving him softball interviews and not saying that much because he's now signed to the media company, pushing a consulting application, and he's part of the Home Team podcast app. Like, I'm not supposed to talk about it. I'm supposed to just sit there in the corner and say, oh, we're friends, so I'm not even going to have an opinion about this yet. We're such good friends that I can't even get invited on the podcast. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like it's just goofy. And even for the stupid guy that's like sounds like such a beta and a gamma male in the comment section, I don't need to do this. This doesn't even get me that many views. I did a video today. I mean, my last 2 videos that have nothing to do with that have 250,000 views on Instagram, like 10,000 shares. My last one has 115,000, has thousands of comments, celebrities commenting on it, famous athletes. I don't need to do this. Like, this is not even my biggest platform anymore. I get way more views, way more comments, way more engagement on Instagram. If I really wanted to just get attention, I don't need, this isn't getting me attention. If I wanted attention, this is not even the way for me to do it. Twitter and Instagram get me more attention than a Facebook and a YouTube. I do these because I like it. I do a podcast and it's more real. You know what I'm saying? I have longer form. I can explain myself. So someone said interview Chris Cuomo. I'd be down, but here's the thing is like, I know he's a liar. I could interview him. They gave the debate to Dave Smith. They could ask me to do it. That's fine. Dave is smart. He's not a bad guy to do it. But like, I don't like if you think Chris Cuomo has changed or he had a change of heart or they're hiring him to get the left, like you're just dumb. I don't know. Like I don't feel like I have to prove myself to anybody. Like if you're that dumb, then just be that dumb. Like anybody that's smart knows that he like you think he had a change of heart and now he's saying that like he has long COVID and he's fear mongering about the avian bird flu. He's the exact Chris Cuomo is the exact same establishment shill that he was on CNN. PBD's using him for his rich network to push his consulting application, and Chris Cuomo's using PBD to get money and an audience after he had, you know, probably just a good deal. I don't know, but it's just like I don't know what to tell you. I don't need to interview the guy because not there's no point of even talking to him. I'd love to debate him, but nothing he says is true. He talks out of both sides of his mouth. I'd rather talk to a liberal in a tent at Columbia University because even if I disagreed with them, they actually believe what they say. Listen to Chris Cuomo. He doesn't believe a word he says. He's not, there's no point of even talking to him. He's not an authentic liberal. He'll say whatever he has to say. It's like I don't like to talk to people like that because it's like at least if you at least if you mean what you say, then we could start somewhere. But if everything you're saying is a lie, like to me, Chris Cuomo, he's like a con artist. You know what I'm saying? Like a con artist that tells you that he's your friend and gets on your side, and then like next thing you know, $2,000 is stolen from your bank account. Like that's like the vibe of I get from him. It's like the way his eyes look, and he just looks like a pathological liar. And it's like he said he was vaccine injured. Everybody saw the video. It went viral. And then he goes, oh, no, I'm not vaccine injured. It's long COVID. And we really got to watch out for long COVID and the avian bird flu. It's like, dude, this guy should be shamed, shunned, and, mocked a few times and then left like ignored completely. But yeah, it is what it is. And here's the thing. Do I have to like Chris Cuomo all of a sudden because somebody hires him? Like, if Fox News hires Anthony Fauci, if I have friends at Fox News, I just have to be like, that's so awesome. You're just bridging the gap. Oh, wow. Daily Wire hired Jen Psaki. They're bridging the gap. Wow. Good for Ben Shapiro. No, I would make fun of my own best friend if they hired Jen Psaki or Anthony Fauci or Chris Cuomo. Like I'm not allowed to make fun of it's a lame ass move. It's a good move if you care about money over the country, but if you actually care about journalism and it's whack in my opinion. Lady Beatitude said you're smart and you're right. I wish you could be more family friendly. Your phallic comments are distasteful, but I love your insights. All right, I'll do what I can. Someone said Anomaly wants to work at CNN. Your IQ must be like below 10, dude, because like you're not even out of everything I said, you're not even making sense anymore. Very low IQ. It's okay. Someone said leave Anomaly alone. But this is what I'll say too, because I want to take it back to this analogy, because this really shows you what the country is. Like, if you really think about it, 10 to 20% of the population across the nation just had to say no during any part of the COVID pandemic, and it all would have ended because they needed like 90+% compliance, and they got it. A lot of people will rewrite history and they'll act like every Republican state was free. It wasn't. I traveled to Dallas 2 years or a year after the pandemic, and I was getting hassled at my hotel more than I was in California. And Breckenridge was actually really free. I was surprised, even though it's liberal, but there's a different dynamic to every state. But the point that I'm getting to is like, you see on television, it's 50% Republican versus 50% Democrat. It's Trump versus Biden. It's MAGA hats versus cat ladies. It's whatever you want to think, activists versus this. But then when push comes to shove, 1% of the population steps up and 99% of the population flops like fish. During the pandemic, Tony Roman, who I interviewed yesterday or a couple of days ago, he's like, why was I one of the only businesses that never locked down for a second, that used my money to then put up billboards to go against the lockdown? Like, he was easily the boldest, I would say, company owner. There were others. Other people did something. And Ian Smith and others, stood their ground and pushed back a little bit. But like, they were all alone. If all the Republicans in New Jersey would have done what Ian Smith did, it would have been over. Tony, his business is in a Republican's part of California. More people are Republican than Democrat. Why did nobody else do that? So this is where I differ from the betas, the gammas, and all the weak men that are crying in the comment section. Is I know it's not red versus blue and 50 versus 50. It's like 1% of the population actually has a spine, and 99% of the population are just consumers and fans and pom pom cheerleaders. And it's like, you could be a cheerleader for a media company or a cheerleader for Trump. It's not going to change any of this stuff. And it's like that's what's going on now, in my view as well, is all it takes is like 20 to 30% of the country to actually figure stuff out, and then it will all shift. But the thing is, people can't figure it out. And it's weird because on my page, there's people that are crying in the comment section. But if you go to Patrick's video, if you watch his video where he tries to justify hiring Chris Cuomo, all of the top comments, I'm talking about if you scroll the first 50 comments, they're all hundreds of up likes, thousands of up likes saying, dude, that's really whack. You don't understand your audience. So it's like, that's good for somebody to get backlash. And it's like, once the audience outsmarts the politicians and the media companies, that's when they have to actually change and serve you. But as long as you're just a fan with no spine, it's just going to be like cyclical, circular, it's never really going anywhere. So I woke up during the pandemic and I realized that it's not 50-50. It's not even 80-20. It's like 1%, 99%. And most people that wear hats and wear red, they're just fans. They're equivalent to like a drunk, fat Raiders fan that has like black belly pain. And it's like, all right, you're no Terrell Owens. You know what I'm saying? You're no Tom Brady. And that's just what it is. Like, yeah, you're a fan, but you're not impacting the game, which is fine in sports. Not everybody can play, but when it comes to democracy or whatever they pretend, the republic, it's like it does require men and people actually noticing things and caring. And I've made this point another day, is when it comes to the left-wing campus protesters, I don't agree with a lot of their politics. I don't agree with some of their tactics. I don't even know if they would like me at all based on my, ideology. With that being said, they're putting their foot down and they're basically saying that we don't want to fund a foreign war. And Biden is kind of like waffling on it because he's trying to figure out, do I please the donors or do I please my voting base? With that being said, a Project Veritas thing came out recently, and one of the guys in the government basically said that it's like he's trying to please his donors, but then after the election, he might do something else. But they forced Biden and be like, we're your base. We don't want to fund this foreign war. Stop. And then Biden's actually considering it because he actually respects his base, because he has to at a certain point or else he'll lose the election. He's probably going to lose. With that being said, the Republican Party, the Republican media, there's very few times where they actually have to change because they're constantly tricking you and outsmarting you. Candace Owens versus Ben Shapiro, that was one time where Candace used her power to challenge Ben Shapiro. And look what happened. Now they're changing their tune. A lot of things were revealed. That's what happens when people are brave and they speak the truth. It's just like when everybody's dog walking you in politics and you're just like a fan. When you're just a fan, then that's what it is. It's like you're always gonna, just politics. They're they're not doing what you think they're doing, what the fans think they're doing. I'm gonna read a few comments. I mean, I would the people that are like disagreeing and stuff, it's like if you were making a point, I would actually have a conversation or a debate with you. Someone said Cuomo's like Tim Pool, but worse, self-righteous and arrogant. He's one of the worst. I mean, it's hard to listen to someone that doesn't even believe what they're saying. Like it's hard for me to. I have good intuition, so when they're doing that, it's like, all right, I'm gonna block that one guy. Sorry. Anomaly wants a rap feature from Ben Shapiro. No, you're probably like 5 years older, maybe not. But someone said audio's messed up all of a sudden. Can you guys hear it or no? Is it messed up? Someone said, I feel so bad for the woman that got tricked into backing these narratives. Cuomo's handsome, so bait for women demographics. Yeah, I don't know who's watching this stuff. Someone said, like, imagine how much better podcast would be if Rogan was actually honest like Anomaly. Rogan is who he is. I mean, he's himself, but I would say I'm not, I could always just build my business. I'm not looking at Rogan like, "Oh, he should be like me." It's like he is who he is. I'm not really mad at it, but someone said, "Cite the Florida hate speech law so we can look into it." Oh, you can't? You're a clown? There's 3 of them. I could name all 3 of them that have been passed, and then you could look into it. Here's the thing. You're gonna say this, right? Call me a clown. I'm gonna tell you the 3 times the hate speech laws were passed into government. I know it better than almost anybody. And then what are you gonna do? You're gonna come back tomorrow. I've seen you here every day for like 3 weeks. Like you're gonna come back even though I told you and do what? You're never gonna admit you were wrong. The first one that I caught was in 2019. DeSantis passed a religious protection bill for only one religion that included protection for non-religious ethnicity, excuse me, or an ethnic group. So the anti-Semitism IHRA hate speech rules were passed into that bill sneakily in 2019. It was under the guise of religious discrimination, but it only included a list of hate speech phrases for one race, not even a religion, really, or a religion and a race. And then he passed one that hyped up littering charges, but only littering charges if you committed a crime of anti Semitism. What is anti Semitism? It's the working definition of IHRA. So he passed hyping up littering charges for only one ethnic group and religion. And then this year, he passed the official definition of anti Semitism in Florida law is now the IHRA laws. So he passed it 3 different times. You could look all that up, you can find it, and you'll still be here talking shit. It's like talking to a wall. I don't, it's like, that's why I just kind of work at my own pace. And it's like, I'm not going to change people's opinions that don't want to listen. So I don't really care. I'm not like stressing out about it. I make little Instagram videos when I want. They get millions of views. I make Twitter posts. I get millions of impressions on Twitter every day. Facebook, boomers just want to look at my memes and they freak out when anything involves Israel, even if it's a basic like news article. It's like, it is what it is. I don't know. What I really want to do is I like doing this. I appreciate it. It's like real. I'm speaking, but I want to do something like cool and special, because just going through the motions is like everybody's just clicking and scrolling, and it's like scroll, scroll, scroll. Oh wow, short clip, bling, bling, bling. It's like snooze. So I'm working at a different pace because I'm working on other stuff. I have a documentary coming out about Yuri Bezmenov with the guys who made Uncle Tom and Uncle Tom 2. I'm starring in it. I don't know how much I'm in it, but I also think I was an inspiration behind it, in the sense of, I interviewed G. Edward, and I'm friends with the director, and he wanted to go all in with it, and he did. And, I think it's going to hopefully be one of the best documentaries in recent history. So, hopefully that pans out. I have faith in the editing team and him, and I'm pumped about that. Like, that's going to be like a real documentary for the ages. So we're working hard on that. Yeah. Someone said Yuri tried to warn us. Yeah, we're making a full-blown documentary about that. G. Edward Griffin with Chad O. Jackson too. Yeah, it's gonna be legendary. I'm pretty pumped about it. It's gonna be good. Someone said Trump was the first to pass the Jude law in 2018. I know he passed an executive order in 2019. All the college campus anti-Semitism stuff, Trump passed it via executive order in 2019. This is what I want to say too, like with this sort of stuff. I'm not going to say it's hard, because there's harder jobs. It's not hard, but like, I want to be clear about this, because one of the false narratives that sometimes goes out, and I don't really care, I'm just being honest. They'll say Anomaly's hateful, he's bitter, he's whatever. In real life, especially like growing up in high school and college, like I'm very outgoing. I make friends very easily. I'm a very likable guy. I'm very charming. Not trying to talk myself up, but like I don't have a problem being friends with people. Like that's one of my stronger suits in life is like I'm very personable. I'm very likable when I want to be. And when I don't want to be, I guess I'm not. But it's like that's not my issue. Here's the difference between me and a lot of people who get into politics and journalism. I got into this to tell the truth. I got into this to fix the country. I know it's not necessarily possible to fix everything, but it's like I got into this to be a better version of the media. That's why I got into this. I didn't get into this to be a politician. I didn't get into this to make $100 billion. I didn't get into this to be friends with a politician and then never talk about it. I didn't get into this to take money from the pharmaceutical industry. I didn't get into this to network with Chris Cuomo so I can make money on an app. That's not why I got into this. So then it's like the people that care about money, fame, social circles, politics, and business more than they care about the truth, authenticity, and doing a good job, they constantly try to misframe what I'm doing because they don't even understand who I am. Like if I wanted to do that, I could have done that. I could have done it in 2018, 2019. Like I know people I'm not even going to say who, cause it doesn't matter, but it's like, there were people in 2019 that were calling me like, yo, your other friend is my donors. And like, they're like telling me that someone else that they knew that I knew, like the donors are mad at them. And like, it was basically like people fighting over donors, and they would call me and be like, oh, tell them to do they're my donors. And I'm like, you guys are so lame. You know what I'm saying? Like the people that watch you think like you actually give a shit, and you're just like running around sucking up donor money and just like putting on a little act. So with all this stuff, it's like, when I do reporting, when I report on the left wing, the left goes insane. This is like the programming in America. The left wing goes insane and they're like, oh, that's racist. That's sexist. Oh, Trump's a fascist. And, they like lose their mind. Like 2016 to 2019, I got crazy messages from liberals who went batshit insane. Like they literally couldn't understand what I was saying. And it's like they had like a hardware malfunction. Now in 2019 and 2020, when I started realizing, oh, Trump took $1 million from Pfizer. Oh, he hired a pharmaceutical lobbyist. Oh, this Operation Warp Speed is a socialist pharmaceutical jump off, then it was right wingers who treated me that way. And just like the left, when you report the truth to the left, they say that you're being hateful. And then when you report the truth to the right, they also say that you're being hateful. So it's like I could say the meanest thing about the left, and the right would be like, that's not hateful, that's based. There's no such thing as hate speech. And you're like, okay, what if I said that Trump is funded by donors and it's not really going to change that much? Oh, you're just so hateful. Oh, you're just so jealous. Oh, you're just so jealous. It's like, I'm not a jealous person. I like myself. I'm not like, I want to be him, or I don't want to be anywhere else than where I am right now. I'm just being honest. Like what, and this is the point that I'm at, where I like doing it. So I would never I would only stop doing it if I didn't want to do it myself. I would never let anyone bully me into that. With that being said, it's like, I got to figure out, like, I mean, people like it on certain social platforms for sure. I've been able to build an audience and things rotate. Like, Facebook's been super cold right now, and now Twitter's hot, and Instagram's hot. But in general, it's like, do people want that or no? Because this is where I'm getting. During the lockdown, people could have at any time stopped it, but people didn't stop it. Was it Anthony Fauci's fault? Was it Trump's fault? Was it Klaus Schwab's fault? Was it, Bill Gates's fault? Was it Gavin Newsom's fault? Was it Phil Murphy's fault? Kind of, but also it's everyone's fault. Like, it's America's fault. America is obese, addicted to pharmaceuticals, and nobody wants to do anything. They just want to sit around and idol worship. So it's like, you could blame anybody you want, but the truth is, that's what people wanted. People wanted to listen. They didn't want to step up. They didn't want to be brave. So you get what you get. If you act like a slave and you walk like a slave and you talk like a slave and you act like a sheep and you walk like a sheep and you talk like a sheep and you walk like cattle and you act like cattle and you think like cattle, you're going to get treated like cattle. It's not right. I wouldn't treat somebody like that, but it's like, at the same time, why did people do that? So then when it comes to the reporting and stuff like this, do millions of people want the truth? Absolutely. Have I gotten 1 billion views? Yes, I have millions of followers. Like, I can't complain. I'm reaching millions of people a day still, and I'm getting hundreds of thousands of views still to this day. It's just, things have changed. Facebook doesn't show my videos anymore. I post the same video on Instagram and Facebook. I have 1.6 million followers on Facebook. I have 400 something thousand followers on Instagram. My video on Instagram will get 100,000 views in a couple hours, thousands of shares, thousands of comments. And on Facebook, it gets 2,000 views. It's not me. They're just not showing it to people. And then people will say, oh, Anomaly's so unpopular on Facebook now with videos, but then I post a meme and it gets 1,000 shares because that's what Facebook wants to show people. It is what it is. I'm not tripping about it. It's just things rotate, and where people see stuff changes and shifts. With that being said, I'm just curious. Like, I know my audience wants to hear it. I know millions of people want to hear it. I know I've been very successful and done very well. So I know there's an audience. It's not like I don't see it. Like, how can I be ungrateful? I got 1 billion views. That's incredible. It's crazy. So clearly it's working to some extent. With that being said, though, it's really a numbers game. So it's like, if most people, yeah, of course I'll have an audience. Of course I could make money. Of course I could be successful probably for a while. Who knows? Hopefully. But it's like, at what point am I just preaching to the choir? At what point does it not even really matter? Because it's like, if most people want to do what they want to do, it doesn't matter who gets in office. It doesn't matter how much they like or hate Trump. Like, it's not going to change, And it's like, if people want to get scammed, then they just keep getting scammed. And that's what I'm seeing here is like, the people at the top, they treat you like cattle. And then I'm like, they're treating you like cattle. Don't you have some self-respect? And some people do, but most people are like, moo, moo, shut up, Anomaly, moo, moo, you're jealous, moo, moo. And I'm like, should I just leave these people and let this, like, I get why the people at the top treat you like cattle. You're just like a factory farm consumer to them. So it's like, you don't even respect yourself enough to notice what they're doing. So they just keep doing it. And that begs the question, are they doing it because they're bad people? Or are they doing it because that's what works and you can't run a business without it? Like, if people want to be treated like cattle and you want to treat them like humans, but when you treat them like humans, you get run out of business, and the people treating them like cattle make hundreds of millions of dollars. Maybe these people at the top have just decided, listen, not everybody's smart, not everybody's brave, not everybody's honest. Just lie to them. It's easier to lie than tell the truth. It's easier to trick them than to tell them they've been tricked. It's easier to sell them something than to tell them we're just selling something. It's like, maybe that's why they're doing it. I would never do that. I don't have the capacity to do that. But that's where it's like, I'm trying to do things of purpose and value, but I don't know that that's what people want. I don't know, but I do see it though. That's the thing. It's like, I do see the shift. I do see the change, and I do see that a lot of people are waking up. It's just interesting. Let me see. Someone said speak in code. I can't do that. Someone said Massey's been in for 10 years. Yeah, but he's like alone, when they're voting on speech condemnation and it's like 200 votes to 1, there's nothing he could really do in Congress. He could just be a voice. Like Thomas Massey, none of his bills are going to get passed. No one in politics cares. Like, let me put it in perspective how fake the Republican opposition is. Thomas Massey's constantly doing bills about the Fed or about clean meat or whatever, and 99% of Congress just ignores them, and they're passing bills for Israel, Ukraine, blah, 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 spying. They don't even care about the food you're eating. But here's the problem. No one else does. No one, like, if enough people cared about what they were eating, then they wouldn't be able to do that. But people are so brainwashed into partisan politics. That's why I say what I say. It's not because I think that Trump is the worst politician ever. And it's not because I think he's going to be, I would hope he could do something good. You would hope. With that being said, it's like these people are never going to change because they have no incentive to change. Because it's like, at this point, I believe, and I've thought this way for years now, a Trump worshiper is as crazy as a Trump hater. It's just two sides of the same theater. So it's like, as long as you're worshiping him or hating him, you're not paying attention to the food you're eating. Like, this country has a crazy pharmaceutical problem, and my soul has been screaming about it since I was 17 years old. You could find raps of me when I was a teenager talking about the pharmaceutical crisis in America. 20 years ago, I used to rap about this. My first raps, some of them talked about the corruption of the media in the pharmaceutical industry. Trump didn't wake me up to everything. I just thought he was an honest guy that was going to fix it. Although it did hit at the same time I turned 25, 26, I started learning about conservative values, etc. But with that being said, I'm just shocked that so many people in this country don't care about what's going on. Like everybody's taking Ozempic now. Every commercial is a pharmaceutical commercial. 99% of the world doesn't even allow those type of commercials because they won't allow you to push a commercial for a prescription that you need a doctor for. And it's like, why is that not the number one agenda of the Republican Party? It's because they just don't care. But then it's like their own voting base doesn't even care either. So, like they have no incentive to care. If you were like, "Hey, why don't you do that?" It's just like crazy to me. Sorry, banning somebody. Sorry about that. Confirm. Someone said the microplastics found in people's testicles. Yeah, they said that the study was only like 21 people or something, but at the same time, I'm sure that there's a lot of issues going on. Someone said, seriously, think about it. The men who had the guts to change things are sitting in jail. How do we change it? Who are the men who had the guts to change things? I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like to me, it's the men who got brainwashed by the vaccine salesman, got tricked into like that's not change to me. But I pray for people to get out of jail that are innocent. But as far as like I like getting tricked by Trump isn't revolutionary. Like it's just dumb. So I don't know. Someone said anomaly you cannot fix stupid. If these patterns are not obvious to them by now, forget them. That's how I feel. I feel like this year is so obvious that if people can't figure it out by now, then that's why I'm not like raising my voice or getting angry. It's just like I'm just like whatever. I'll move at my own pace. I'll do what I do. You gotta really like dumb it down. For, hold on, I'm just like blocking people from my life. Hold on a second. And forever. Hold on, ban from page, confirm. Okay. Certain people are ban worthy, but did I wake up about Rachel Levine being Obama's husband yet? No. Are you joking or no? I don't. It's whatever. Common sense says anomaly never has a point. You're here all the time. Can I ask you a question? Common sense. You don't like my show. You're here every day. You complain the whole time. Are you okay? Is there something that you enjoy that you should spend your time for? Like what do you enjoy? What would be a better use of your time if you're spending dozens of hours watching me? Um like why? I don't understand. I'm starting to think this too. I mean, I did a thread on Twitter that Matt Walsh retweeted. What did I lie about? Common sense. You're calling me a liar. What name a thing? But it's like I'm starting to think like on social media. I'm grateful for. I want to be really clear. I'm grateful. I'm appreciative, but the people that spend a lot of time on social media at this point, you get like sucked into this fake reality. And then you just start acting like a little weird. And then it's like, I'll go somewhere for a week. I'll come back. I'll log in. And the first thing's like, oh, and you're just like, dude, like, I think people are just like, the internet's not really as fun as it used to be for a lot of people. Everyone's overstimulated by like memes and scroll, 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 scroll. So it's just like a weird place now. It's a very odd place. He said I'm a narcissist. Why? How? About what? It's like you say that I'm lying, then you say like saying I'm lying because I'm a like name one thing. What am I lying about? What am I a narcissist about? Someone said anomaly, the magatards can't shake the T-shill. No, they're as crazy as like a Rachel Maddow viewer. They're like brain malfunctions and they like have like a meltdown, It's fascinating. But yeah, like what part? Cite the DeSantis statute or the law you claim DeSantis passed. You never can. All right, my guy, God bless you. I'm blocking you now. I literally spent 2 minutes breaking down the three times the IHRA laws that everybody are calling the hate speech laws. I mentioned the three times. In 2019, through a bill that was for religious freedom a couple years later to hype up littering charges, and then he passed it as the official definition in all of Florida law this year. I already said that. Like, I just told you. I have entire videos about it. God bless you, my friend. It's like talking to, like, a crackhead. They just don't get it. It's all yeah. I have full videos from 2019 where I have screenshots and so, like, if you want that type of citation, I did it 5 years ago. And that's another thing too is, like, I'm just, like, bored with, like, conservative media. It's just boring to me now. There's things I could do to get clicks and stuff. I know how to do it. It's just like now Charlie Kirk and Steven Crowder and all these people are saying what I said 5 years ago, and they don't even know what they're talking about, and it's like, "Cite it, cite it." I already did 5 years ago. I have a video that's 15 minutes long that's a better piece of journalism than anything anyone has made this year about the topic, and no one knows what they're talking about. So it's like I have it posted if you wanna look at it, but those are the 3 times that DeSantis passed it. If you Google 2019 DeSantis anti-Semitism bill, he flew to Israel and passed the first Florida bill on foreign soil. And it was a religious protection discrimination bill for only one religion, but also for a race, but not for any other religion. But it included the IHRA speech laws. Then he did a littering bill where he hyped up charges. I think he made it a felony to do littering only for anti Semitism. And he included the IHRA speech laws. And then this year he passed it into the law. It's in law. So if you're ever in a court and they say, oh, this person was anti Semitic. Okay, well, what is anti Semitic? Go to the State Department defining anti Semitism website, and you could see what the hate speech rules are. It's being passed everywhere. It's being passed in Brazil. It's being passed in Europe. It's being passed in America. It's being passed in Georgia. It's being passed in Florida. Everywhere is following the same definition of anti Semitism. I've said it 1,000 times. Most people who aren't stupid, who watch my show, are tired of it. But that's the thing. It's like, you know, I don't know what I don't know what to really do. It's like if people can't get it at this point, I don't know. Someone said, I'm tired of talking politics. We need to fix our country, damn it. It's just my opinion on my show. But in order to fix the country, it requires a real opposition. If the opposition's fake, it's not going to change. So, it is what it is. But I don't know what to tell people. Like, you want to change it, but you can't. So what are you going to do? Just get mad every day? No, it's like identify the issue and then identify the problem. The problem with most Republican media is they identify the problem, but then they give you a fake solution, but they're not mistakenly giving you a fake solution. I used to think this. You don't have to believe me, but if you don't believe me, why even watch my show? I've been doing this for 8 years now. My experience, not just telling you and researching, but my experience going to events, meeting people, understanding the dynamic of how it works, people are not mistakenly misleading you. They're getting paid to do it. And it's not like they're getting paid and they're like mislead them. It's just they know where the money's at and they know what not to say and what to say to get the money. So it's this really unholy like relationship that really bothers you if you have a soul, where it's like the Republican politicians are sold out to donors. Just a fact, including Trump. The Republican media, in some cases, is also sold out to donors. In other cases, has a huge bias for other reasons where they're never telling the truth because they're not serving America. And in other cases, they're just running a business and they care about money and that's all they care about. And then on the consumer side, the consumers are mostly obsessed with the media companies. They're obsessed with the politician. And when you try to point this stuff out, they just say that you're being hateful or jealous. So it's like the elites literally think you're cattle. Like if you go to the top of the pyramid, the donors, some of them literally think you're cattle, like literally. And then when you try to tell these people that that's all how it's happening, they're like, moo, shut up, moo, you're jealous, moo, you're a narcissist. And you're like, okay, you almost like stop blaming these people. You're like, why? Like, I wouldn't treat people like that for my own spirit and soul, but it's hard to blame the elites. It's hard to blame the elites when the people act like cattle, walk like cattle, talk like cattle, and they get more mad when you point it out than they do at the people doing it to them. It's the same with the pandemic and the lockdown. It's like Trump supporters got more mad at me for pointing out that Trump sold out to the pharmaceutical industry. They got more mad at me for saying it than him for doing it. They'd be like, you sold out. Who's paying me to do the open research that you could do to say that Trump sold out to the pharmaceutical industry? Like, he did. And no one wants to say it in Republican media because they eat off of the Trump economy. Trump is the big dog and everybody eats his scraps, and they'd lick the dirt off his shoes for a couple million. So it's like, I don't know what to do, because it's like, that's what's going on. And most people don't want to hear it, and they get mad at you for telling them. So it's like, I'm starting to understand, although I'm not a bad person like this, but I'm starting to understand, like, that's why the elites think you're cattle. That's why they crap on you all the time. They literally think you're like ants. They're like, these people are pathetic. And I'm like, no, they're not. Americans are awesome. And Americans are like, no, we're not. We're cattle. And you're like, wait, you are? I thought we weren't. Like, so it's like, it's just crazy. And I know that some people are dumb and some people are naive and foolish, but at the end of the day, like, you got to figure this shit out. Robert Blatchley said, people here in Daytona are absolutely clueless what's going on here. Abroad, they don't get the 15-minute cities are being rolled out by developers funding local politicians. There's a lot of moves being made for sure. And a lot of it, like, even with those speech laws, the law is what, like, the reason that park rangers are arresting, yoga teachers in San Diego that are trying to do oceanside yoga is because of the law. So it's like, if you follow the legislation, they follow that. So, and the donors obviously are controlling politicians, but like, when they passed those anti-Semitism hate speech laws, I was like, something's coming, because there's no way that, like, why would they pass a law that says that you can't boycott Israel? Like, why would you want, like, I didn't even understand it at the time. I was like, why would you want to boycott Israel? Like, why? I would never boycott an Israeli company. Why would you pass that as a law? It doesn't make sense. And now it's like, Israel's killing thousands of women and children. You're like, oh yeah, now I understand why a company might want to do that. But they, in some cases, it's like not allowed. America is like completely controlled by those laws, So anytime a law is passed, whether it's an universal flu vaccine executive order by Trump in 2019, or an executive order to quash, anti-Israel protests on college campus, there weren't even really anti-Israel protests on college campuses in 2019. So why were there so many laws being passed? It's like, they're always going somewhere with it. So with like the DEI, and you're talking about like 15-minute cities, they'll say it's a conspiracy theory, but if you look at the laws they're rolling out and the way that the companies and the policies, that will tell the story of where the country's going. You know what I'm saying? Like, if people just look at that stuff, it's like, oh yeah, that's what they're doing. But most people, this is my issue. And this is for the people that want to listen, but the issue is that you can see this stuff ahead of time if you pay attention. But if you're just hating Trump or worshiping Trump or hating DeSantis or obsessing over DeSantis, or you love DeSantis until Trump tells you to hate DeSantis, then you hate DeSantis, then you don't trust DeSantis because Trump told you not to trust him because he went against Trump, you're like, you're not ever going to figure anything out, because this is like so low down. I'm not going to say who's at the top of the pyramid because it's hate speech, but jokes aside, it's like, you have banks and billionaires. It's like the banks, the banks control the money. You know what I'm saying? I knew this when I was 19 years old. Maybe it's an IQ thing. I don't know. I'm not acting like I'm so smart, but it's like, I could figure out that banks were at the top of the pyramid early on, because it's like, if you win money at a casino, you're like, oh, I hit the lottery. You hit the human lottery, you hit the consumer lottery, but the owner of the casino is hitting the lottery every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, a bank owns the money. So at the top, you have the bank. The donors obviously probably have good relations with the bank. If you have over $1 billion, banks, who doesn't? So it's like, you have the donors, and then you have, NGOs and nonprofits and media companies and corporations who control all of them. And then, like, a step down, like, you go like 5 layers down, and you have like Romney and Obama. And then you have like, Trump and Biden. And even if Trump like goes up and down a few layers, he's still down a few layers. So it's like, no matter how, I'm not asking people to not like him, but it's like, if you can't figure this out at this point, and you're just like playing like character battles over politicians, you're losing so hard, like, you're never going to win. The game's rigged, and you're following like a puppet on a string, like, you're like, why is he moving like that? Because someone's above him pulling the strings. It's like, this is the weird part is like everybody had an awakening at a different point. Like some people had a left to right awakening. Some people had I was a normie who watched Fox News and now I believe conspiracy theories. I always liked quote unquote conspiracy theories. That wasn't the hard part for me. I just didn't understand left wing and right wing. And to be quite honest, I don't, and this isn't a cop out. I know this might sound like it, but I don't even think I was that wrong because it's like when I became super conservative, it's like, yeah, I think that was right socially. Like I think social conservatism is right. But at the same time, like the Republican Party is fake. So now I'm like kind of back where I was in 2014. Before I cared about politics, I was like, both parties are fake. Then I was like, oh, maybe Bernie Sanders is real. Wait, no, I'll just vote for Jill Stein because it doesn't matter. Oh, wait, no, Trump's cool. Oh, wait, no, he's not cool. So it's like I'm back where I was in 2013, thinking both parties are puppets, but I have better core values, I think, as a person, in the conservative light. But as far as like the conservative party, it's all an illusion. But until people figure that out, it's just like nothing's going to change. But then I say that and people perceive it as like hateful, like it's like a personal attack against them or something. So it's just fascinating to me. But I think that in some ways, a lot of people are starting to get it, but in other ways, there's always this new trick or trap, and it's hard to gauge like who gets what. Because here's another thing that I'd say: I would say that like most people on X are waking up. A lot of people on Instagram are waking up. Facebook is like 20 years behind. No offense to the boomers, we love the boomers, but on certain crucial topics, you guys are lost and super stubborn. With that being said, it's like that's a small microcosm of reality and society. 90% of people who don't use Twitter or they don't get online all the time, they're not awake. You know what I'm saying? Like you go to middle of America, in some cases they're conservative, but they're not really awake. They're voting for the worst Republicans. Like some of the worst Republicans in the world are in red states. And they don't even realize that they're bad because it's so easy to trick Republicans in red states. You just wear like a cowboy hat and say a phrase, and then they'll vote for the rhinoiest rhinos ever. And it's like, how are you guys? You guys could vote for the coolest Republican. You have all the population to do it, and then you don't. And one thing I noticed too, I like when people dunk on California. It's politics, Gavin Newsom, Democrats, liberals. It's all true. They're not running anything properly on a local level. With that being said, I do feel like, and some people are probably going to get mad at this, but I do feel like a lot of people in Texas and states like those, they kind of have this false sense of arrogance. And I'm not saying not to love your state, you should, but it's like if you look at Texas, Republicans used to control the cities. Republicans used to win elections by 20, 30 points. They used to win elections in Dallas and Houston. And now, due, in my opinion, to demographic shift, they're never going to win those cities again. But it's like, people in Texas that are Republicans, they don't even care. They're not like, oh, we lost our major cities. Like, what? Republicans used to win California. Republicans used to win elections in other cities. Why should Republicans lose all the best cities in the country? Like, that's not good. But like, they're like Texas. And it's like, you almost lost to Beto O'Rourke. You used to win elections by 20 points and it was like a 5-6 point margin. So it's like, I feel like Texas, I'm not trying to be a dick, but like, I feel like a lot of Republicans in Texas and middle America states, they have that like hoorah mentality where they're like, we're crushing. And it's like, you're really not though. You're losing your cities. You're losing your state, cities that states that used to be 30% Republican are now swing states. And eventually over time, you're going to lose because of demographic shift. Like you're in 10 years, you're never going to win an election again, unless things change somehow. But, that's what I see. And it's like, it's really like weird where they're always like, yeah, Texas never had any mandates. I was like, I was in Dallas in 2022 and they're like, yeah, but that's a blue city. Yeah, but Breckenridge is also a blue city and they didn't have as many mask mandates as Dallas. I went to both of those areas and it's like, oh, it's a mountain town. Yeah, but there's other bigger Republican areas that didn't have mask mandates, and there were small liberal areas that did have mask mandates. The sheer amount of people did not determine the mandates. And, with crime, people will always say that about crime. They're like, well, the big cities have more crime. Well, not Tokyo. Japanese people aren't out doing that stuff that often. So, and it's like 99% Japanese. So it's like you could say a big city is going to have more crime than a small area, but not as much as American cities because certain people, in certain countries and their culture and the way they act, like they're not committing that many crimes. So like everybody always has this cop out like, oh, that's a blue city. It didn't used to be blue. Oh, that's just this. It's like still though, it's in your state. Why? How come a red area of California got pressured by Gavin Newsom, but a blue area in Texas just got to run rampant with mask mandates. That doesn't really make sense. And I know some people rejected it, but it's like that, in my opinion, that's like I don't want to say boomer, but boomer Republican mentality is like, we're losing, but we're going to pretend like we're winning. We're losing our cities. We're losing our states. We're losing elections. We're losing demographic shifts, and we're going to get completely phased out of politics in 10 years. But we're crushing the trans. And you're like, all right, well, like, yeah, you're doing better than Los Angeles, but not really, like some of the cities are not, a lot of the cities in red states are not even doing better than Los Angeles. Like they're very crime heavy, So that's just what I feel like with Republicans. It's like the politicians are fake opposition, but it's because the people want to lose. It's very weird. I'm super competitive. I love to win. I love sports. I don't like losing. If I ran for office, I wouldn't want to lose. I mean, I deal with it, but it's like I'm not playing to lose. Who wants to lose? Losing sucks. But I feel like Republicans, they hate losing, but they love losing. It's weird. It's like a basketball team that like doesn't try that hard and loses by 50 points and then throws a fit. And you're like, but you didn't even try. You know what I'm saying? Like, why even get mad when you lose if you didn't even try? Like, try hard and then you get mad when you lose. But that's just how I see the Republican Party. They're just like losing everything, but they just tell themselves online like Texas is safe, Texas is awesome, and it's like, I don't know. I told people I had two friends in media that lived in Los Angeles. They both lived in Los Angeles for 6 years. They both moved to Fort Worth, Dallas, Fort Worth, probably to be on Blaze or something. Both of their cars got their catalytic converters, or however you say that word, jacked out of their car. It's like Fort Worth is supposed to be the based red area of Dallas, and they're getting their car pieces stolen in Texas. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying Texas is bad. I like Texas. I'm just saying like the country's going to shit. Let's just stop pretending like Texas is totally beating it. Austin's shittier than it was 10 years ago. I'm sure Houston and San Antonio and Dallas, maybe not, but it's like I'm sure there's issues there as well. Pretty heavy issues in certain areas, but like Texans don't want to. I don't. I'm not a car guy. I apologize. I used to say Cadillac converter and people used to make fun of me. So I just probably said it wrong. See, someone else said Cadillac converter too. It's a very uncommon word. So the average American, ignorant American, we just say Cadillac, but that's not right. Someone said even my Cadillac converter was sold in Texas. It happens, and I'm not saying this to shit on Texas. It's just like, if your state is also falling apart and you're like, well, California sucks and Texas is the freedom capital of the world, it's like your state's falling apart too. Your cities are falling apart. The nice areas of the city are now getting robbed all the time. Crime is running rampant. Like, America's not what it was, it is what it is. But it's like, in order to fix it, you have to identify the problem and then figure out how to solve it. If you're completely hallucinating about the problem, being like, it's just California, of course it's going to get worse. Or it's just the Democrats and the rhinos, but it's not Trump. It's like, that's not true. Like it's like a fake solution for a real problem. And then you just keep hitting your head on the wall. That's just how I see politics. It's not a pessimistic view. It's just like there's no way that's going to work. It's like your buddy that's like 280 pounds. And he's like, how do I lose weight? Stop eating so much and work out. And he's like, oh, geez, Mr. Pessimist here. How did you think you were going to lose weight? You know what I'm saying? You just thought you were going to keep eating a bunch of food and sitting there and you were going to lose weight? No, in order to lose weight, I mean, I guess you could take those weirdo pharmaceutical pills that everybody's taking, but I wouldn't. That's not what I would do. But it's like the real way to lose weight. Yeah, you got to over time eat a lot less and move more, eat less and eat healthier. It's the only way to really lose weight. It's like, oh, you're a pessimist, blah, 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 pessimist, blah, blah, blah. You're narcissistic, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're such a hater. You're so jealous, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what's wrong with people in this country? I really don't. I understand, but it's just getting weird for me because I'm like, I'm not a pessimistic person, but they're like, oh, you're just mad because you're in California. Texas is the freedom capital. Yeah, that's why everyone's getting robbed. And, I know somebody. I mean, I follow him online. His name is Gordon Ryan. He's like the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioner of all time. I think he lives in Texas, and his truck got stolen out of his out of his driveway. Someone stole his truck. Like that type of stuff is happening in Texas also all the time. People are getting their cars stolen, their blank converters stolen, however you say that word. Like I'm not saying that it's like, bad people are bad there, but it's like you talk to like a boomer on Facebook that's from Texas, they'll be like, Texas, yeah, it's the freedom capital. There's no crime here. It's only in LA. And it's like, that's not true at all. It's like Texas is going to shit also, you know? Uh, Someone said, is it a real problem or a well-marketed and manufactured problem? I mean, it's a multi-layered problem, but I think it starts with like people caring, like that's really what it is. I can only speak for my life, and hopefully this comes off as inspirational and not narcissistic, but it's just literally the truth. Like no one gave me anything. You know what I'm saying? Like I never had my bills paid for. I never had family connections where people were like, yo, we can get you into the media or rap. It used to bother me. Like, actually, I think it used to hold me back because I used to look at other rappers and I'd be like, they suck. I used to be jealous. I know what jealousy is because I used to have it. I didn't think I had it because I wasn't like, oh, I hate myself and I love them. But to be truthful, I stopped living in the present moment and being grateful. And I started comparing myself to other rappers when I was in my early 20s. I know what it's like. And it held me back because I was like, why did they get that? Why did they get that? Instead of being the best version of myself, I just kept comparing to everybody else. I had a spiritual awakening in my 20s. I had a mental awakening, maybe is the better talking point for it. I had a mental awakening. And then I thought to myself, wait, what am I doing? Because when you're constantly focusing on others, you're not trying to be great. You understand? Like if you're like, they can do this, they can do this. Yeah, but what can you do? And once you start realizing like, yeah, maybe I don't like their rap or I don't like their beat, but what can I do? Maybe my videos could be better. Maybe my lyrics could be better. Maybe, maybe this is better. And once I started doing that, my whole life changed. And then since I got a little bit of buzz online, I kept it going because I knew what it's like to be broke. I knew what it's like to have nobody watching. I knew what it's like to go up and down. I had millions of views when I was 21 just rapping, and then I fell off the map and I had 100 views. So it's like I'd lived through it all. I'd been a has-been. I'd been broke. I'd worked for 15 other people. And then once I got my push in media, I was like, I'm not going to let this go because I don't want to lose everything. And my work ethic kind of stems from that. If I had a comfortable background, if I had like back in the day, I'd be like, well, they came from richness and, they got handed everything. But it's like, would I even really want that? Because if I had a bunch of money to fall back on and people giving me stuff, then I probably wouldn't work as hard as I do now. I'd probably be like, why, the internet's annoying. It's kind of stressful. It's like, why am I doing this? Why don't I just stop and sit on my money? So it's like the things that I used to think were bad that I used to compare to other people are actually blessings in disguise. So the point that I'm getting to in my career, I found out that no one can do anything for you. And even like when maybe they should, or maybe someone should work with you, it's not always the case. But when I stopped playing the victim, when I started being grateful, and when I started working harder and smarter, that's when that's when everything got created for me. So it's like, to be successful in media or anything, it's like, how bad do you really want it? Do you want it really bad? Are you going to work for it for 12 years? I'm sure there's people watching this that are plumbers or technicians or other, maybe women that own a shop or do something cool. And they know what it took to get where they're at. Like other people be like, oh, that's pretty cool. Oh, wow, that's a cool thing that you do. But it's like, you didn't see the 15 years that they struggled. You didn't see the 5-7 years that they put in making no money before they ever made $1. Like that's the difference in life, is like, how bad do you want it? How hard are you going to work? How persistent are you going to be? Are you going to never give up? Are you going to believe in yourself? Are you humble enough to evolve? Are you confident but humble to know when you need to change something, instead of just being like, oh, they just hate me and not doing it? And then you could make it. And this is the point that I'm getting with politics. If enough people got to that point, everything would change. But the truth is, most people are not there, and they just constantly, they're like consumers and fans, and they're jealous and they're hateful and they're envious, or they're trying to live vicariously through a politician because they're afraid of being a man. So they just look up to another man to save them because they know that they're not the man that's going to save them in their life. So they think that Trump's going to save them, or whoever, or Rachel Maddow is going to save them. And that's the problem with politics. But at the same time, this is also the truth of society, is like, if you're a successful plumber in Texas, if everyone worked as hard as you, you wouldn't be that successful. So it's like the yin and the yang in order for you to be so successful, most people have to be lazy. Most people have to not be good at it. Most people have to give up. And it's sad, but it's just like the reality of it. If everyone did the same thing, then life would be boring and no one would be special. So it's like, the same thing that's upsetting about media and politics is also like beneficial to me. If everybody was super honest, I would have no channel. I wouldn't have a billion views or millions of followers. How did I get that? Hard work, dedication, persistence, honesty, accuracy. Things that I felt like I don't have more money. I don't have more like media connections. I don't have the budget that other people had. So if I don't have that, I don't have that, I don't have that, I don't have that, what do I have? How am I able to get ahead of other people if I don't have that? Well, what can I do better? Well, I could be more honest. I could be more accurate. I could be more friendly. I could have a better like vibe to it than a lot of media. It could be more relatable. It could be more shareable. I know how marketing works just in my head. So it's like that's why I'm not stressing out about politics. Like I want people to figure this stuff out, but that's not reality. Like everyone's not going to figure it out. So like will America change for the better? Eventually I would think so. I would hope so because I think that things will get so rough that I'm not a doomer and a gloomer that's like, oh, the world's going to end soon. It might, but at the same time, there's been societies that have failed and new ones have birthed. There have been empires that have crashed and new ones have created. It's gone from dark ages to renaissance, from food famine to great economy. So there were times in America that were probably worse than now. We just didn't have to live through them. So we don't even know how to compare to it. So it is what it is. But that's what I'm always kind of wrestling with in my head, where it's like you want to. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. You want to help and you want to influence and you want to stand your ground, but at the same time, it's like, how much does it really matter? I know it matters to some extent, but like, I just think that with politics is like people treat people that way because they accept it. It's that simple. But I guess that's just the way things work. Some people, they just want to be fans, like they don't want to stand their ground and get the Republican Party to change. They just want to watch the movie. It's Trump episode 9 and they're a fan. Trump is their Indiana Jones and that's what they believe. Okay, but what if in 2 years you watch what's going on and you say, "You know what? Anomaly was right. You know what? Yeah, no, this isn't what I thought it was." Then we'll be in the same spot. And I do believe that that will come, but we'll see. I'm not rushing it. I think in 2 years, what I'm saying now, what I said last year, what I said 3 years ago, I think millions more people will figure it out because if Trump wins, it's going to just be obvious, because if he wins, he gets to pick a cabinet. Who's he going to who's he going to pick? If he picks the swamp, then everyone's going to be like, "Okay, I guess that wasn't what I thought it was." Someone said, "Anomaly, you have stress knots on your forehead. I get those. Relax your face muscles. Make sure you're taking magnesium." I don't know. Well, thank you. I'll get a massage. How about that? How did I get to know Weird Al Yankovic? I don't know him personally, but maybe you saw an article or something somewhere. I said that like I don't know Weird Al Yankovic, but maybe you're asking because people ask why I rapped. And the first book that I ever read was like well, not that I read, but that inspired me to rhyme was Shel Silverstein's Where the Sidewalk Ends. I liked that rhyming, like, the rhyming scheme. So I started writing rhyming poetry in 3rd grade and trying to be like Shel Silverstein. Then, I heard Weird Al Yankovic do parodies and I started writing parodies. So before I rapped, I did like rhyming poetry and parody songs in school to be funny. And then I started rapping. So I don't know Weird Al personally, but the only time I've ever talked about him was probably to say that his I just thought his parody songs were funny and it inspired me to do, songwriting and do joke parodies like in like elementary school. Someone said those damn forehead muscles giving me migraines. I don't really get migraines. I'm also fasting. I haven't eaten since 2 o'clock yesterday, so I don't know if that's part of it, but maybe not. I'm gonna end this at before 2 hours, but I'll say this too, since there's no comments that are inspiring me, but not I'll answer that one in a second. When I do videos like this, sometimes I have a real clear, like, I want to do it about this topic and I really have a breakdown. Other times I'm just chilling. So like today, I wasn't trying to like obviously like hate on anybody. It's just what I see. It's just what I see and what I want to talk about. And with the one podcast that must not be named or else I'll seem like a hater, it's a weird position for me to be in where it's like I can't go on the show because they don't want me on, which I don't care about. I like it doesn't matter to me, but it's like I'm not gonna just sit here and not do my job. Like I have to pretend like I believe something else. I don't. This is what I believe. I just said what I believe. And I'm not going to be talked down to condescendingly. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I believe. If people want to say that to me, they could chat with me. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, I can't just sit here and be like, oh, I'm going to sideline myself for the next 3 years on this topic and this podcast and this guest because it's going to seem weird if I talk about it because I was almost, it's like, I'd rather have never talked to them so I could just say what I want. It's just weird to me. Or have a conversation that people could see, like have a debate, have a back and forth. But it's like, if I can't do that, I also don't want to just like watch conservative politics and say nothing about it because I feel weird. So I'm not trying to be a hater. That's just how I feel about it. Um, how did I pick Anomaly? I was in a high school. I was in an SAT prep class course where they were giving you extra words for SATs, which are the tests that I did okay on. But the word came up in SAT prep class. It was like anomaly. It was like something deviating from the norm, different, unique, unlike anything else. And I remember that day I just started drawing anomaly because I had like ADD or whatever, or I just didn't give a shit. And I started like drawing anomaly on a piece of paper. And I don't know. I was like, that's my rap name. I just heard the word and thought it was cool. And then I added the 0 because I just didn't want to deal with copyright problems. I was like, that makes it super unique and nobody will ever bother me. And now there's people on Spotify and other people that copy me with the 0. They're like putting out music with the same name with a 0 for the O. And it's like, what are they doing? Trying to grift off of the music audience that's not even that astronomical. I'm not like Lil Wayne or anything. So I got millions of streams, but it's not like astronomical. I think people are just naming themselves after me, trying to like siphon my views or something, which is just weird because it's not that great. Someone said, do I think earlier, I'm going to answer that guy. It's another one of these guys that comes here all the time and just hates, but he's like, do I think my music is that good? Do you really want to think what I say? Or do you want to, I don't know. Cause when it comes to rap, I grew up in battle rap. Like I used to battle. I would always freestyle. If I was at a party, people will say that it's conceited, but like in my head, I'm like, I'm the best rapper. So when I was at parties in college and etc., I wasn't going to sit there and be like, oh, I suck. So like, I was really good at freestyling. I'm good off this, the same way I can do a video like this for 2 hours and I don't have a script. I could just talk. I could do that with freestyles too. Like when I'm really in the zone and practicing, I feel like I'm a great freestyler. But anyway, yeah, I believe in myself. So, I mean, I'm dropping a verse this year, and I think it's one of the best verses of the year. If you don't think so, that's okay. But yeah, I'm not in rap to be bad. I'm trying to be one of the best lyricists of all time. Have I accomplished that now? I don't think so. I don't think I have. I don't think my discography is good enough to be like that's the greatest. I don't have the best discography. My discography isn't top 20, it's not top 30, it's not top 40. But lyrically, flow, can I be one of the best? I believe that I can. And my new verse, I think, is one of the best verses of the year. So I'm not gonna really drop it now, but it's gonna come out. And I sent it to Patriot J and I sent it to DC the Capital because that's who's on the song. And both of them text me back and they said that's the best verse you've ever dropped. I'm like, I'm not playing around. I'm not coming to drop a bad verse. If I put it out, I want it to be great. So we'll see when it's all said and done. I have a long way to go, but I think I can compete and rap with anybody. I just don't do it as much as like, I do it with like 1% of my time now because I've made a career in something else. So I'm grateful for it too, because it's like, I could rap when I want, and when I don't have to do it. I don't. There's no label that's like doing anything. It's like when I want to, I do it. When I don't have to. I'm not. I'm not on like my business is not like I have to do it in order to do it. But let's get a tease. Maybe. I don't. I don't want to give it away. I want to. I'll probably mess it up if I give it away anyway. But let me see if I have it on here. Should I or no? I don't know. No, I would just do it a cappella, but I don't want to. I'll just wait. I have no problem rapping it a cappella, but I'd rather just like not give away my secrets now. My music is owned by Diddy Bad Boy. It's definitely not. I owned all of my music, and then I went to a P Diddy party, and I woke up and I blindfolded, and I didn't own my royalties anymore. No, I'm just kidding. Why would Diddy own my music? That's crazy, but a lot of accusations out here in this crowd. Tough crowd, tough crowd. Hey, 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 it's fun to pray to the MAGA, someone said. That's a weird song. How am I at shuffle dancing? What is shuffle dancing? I don't even a 0 out of 10 because I don't even know what it is. Drug test all politicians. I don't understand that. People are like drug test Biden. Like he's 81 years old. I'm not giving him an excuse, but it's like I guess it would be funny to drug test him. It's like Nancy Pelosi, cocaine, Matt Getz, Adderall, AOC, you know what I'm saying? Like Ozempic. No, I'm just kidding. She's not, but it would be kind of funny to see what drugs they were on. I'm not against them being on drugs. I just think I just want to know. You know what I'm saying? It's like Chuck Schumer. And he's like, oh, it's a false positive. I didn't take it. What drugs do you think people would be on? Biden's probably on a few pills, but I mean, whatever keeps him going, you know what I'm saying? Whatever gets him, whatever gets him up in the morning. I do want to know what he's on, but it's like, it's whatever to me. I don't know. It's like 80% of the country's on drugs. Are we going to pretend like 80% of Congress isn't on drugs? Let's be honest. MTG doesn't need drugs. Maybe, but maybe she does. I don't know. Maybe she drinks. Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. I have no idea what she does, but it would be interesting to know what everyone's doing, right? It would be kind of funny. How am I in a room full of relatives? I would like to think good. I think I'm a bundle of joy, but I don't know. You'd have to ask other people because it's easy to think that I'm awesome, but maybe they're like, nah, he sucks. Plus, it depends who you ask, I guess. I don't know. I think sometimes your family knows you too well, where it's like if you just go to a place a few times, but it's like your family, like most people's families, like, yeah, he's okay. they're not going to be like, he's awesome. They're going to be like, nah, I've seen, because your family, they've seen it all. They've seen your highs, your lows, you getting grounded and shit. So it's like, I doubt they're going to be as thrilled with me as everyone else is, but, Klaus Schwab stepping down. Yeah, I heard he wanted to work at a Wendy's. He just wanted to change of pace, humble himself, and he was like, you know what? I could do what I do at Wendy's. I don't know if that's true, but whatever. I appreciate you guys. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. I just want to let people know that the God bless sweatshirts, there's like 30 left. I posted a picture today. We sold some. And I think there's like 30 God bless sweatshirts. I posted a picture and I said that it's the most complimented thing that I have, which is true. I went out yesterday. Someone complimented it. This morning, somebody complimented it. Every time I wear my God is great sweatshirt, somebody compliments it. So it's a good vibe. And I think there's 30 left. A lot of the t-shirts, they're under 32. Pretty much everything's almost sold out. It's getting pretty close, except for like the black beanies I bought a lot of. But besides that, everything's almost sold out. So if you ever wanted something from my shop, the Big Farmer versus Not Big Pharma shirt, what is it? Big Farmer, Not Big Pharma, Freedom versus Tyranny. Everything that's not the black beanie is pretty much under 30, 20, 15. Some of the long sleeves, there's only like 9 left or 5. I don't know, but I just looked at the inventory recently. I'm trying to sell everything out and it's pretty close. So check it out. Appreciate you guys. God bless you. Have a beautiful week. I'll be back soon. And I don't know. I had fun today, but hopefully it's less weird next time. Maybe I'll do a story. And that's why I ignore the chat sometimes until the end, because it's not bad. I like talking to people, but sometimes it's weird because there's like 4 people that come in here and just like keep spamming stuff. And I don't mind it necessarily, but it's like, I'm sure there's other people that think it's funny and some that are like, just don't look at it. Just do the other thing. So it's whatever. Did I listen to Terrence Howard on Joe Rogan? I did not. And I don't even know who that is, but he's all over my X feed. So should I? Let me know. Appreciate you guys. Have a good day. I'll be back soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, Freedom versus Tyranny shirts, Stay Blessed long sleeve, God is Great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk for $5 a month. You can help support me.